to Big Blend Radio's Nature Connection Show, a podcast covering nature, wildlife, science, and the environment. Welcome, everyone, to a special Nature Connection podcast here on Big Blend Radio. So we're going to talk about what is happening with bears in Florida. There is a proposed hunt coming up, and we're going to talk about that. We have Adam Sugalski joining us from Bear Defenders. I encourage you to go to the website beardefenders.org. It's linked in the episode notes, and we've got Kathleen Walls. You've seen her on Big Blend Radio numerous times over the years. She's a travel writer and author. You can keep up with her at AmericanRoads.net. And she is the one who started knocking on the door going, Lisa, Nancy, you got to do something about this. The bears are in trouble in Florida. And I think you're even talking about this on a podcast about a year and a half ago, Katie. You knew the bears were in trouble, right?
Right.
Well, I'm glad you knocked on our door about it, and welcome back.
I'm always glad to be here, and so glad you're doing this for us.
You bet. We travel, we cover parks and public lands for this reason. Our wildlife is supposed to be wild, right? And we have a coexistence thing going on in our country where we need to learn to work together. And some communities are doing it very well. Asheville, North Carolina's, people live with the bears and they're proud of their bears. And then they learn to maybe not put their trash outside or get a trash container from the city that keeps the lids locked and things like that. So there's just ways to do things. And so I'm very curious about what is going on in Florida. So Adam, welcome to the show. How are you?
Good. How are you doing today?
Good. Can you tell us a little background about Bear Defenders and why you started it?
Well, I started before Bear Defenders, a tiny bit of backstory. So I'd mentioned that I used to protest, investigate Ringling Brothers for cruelty. And I would do like for probably 6 or 7 years and have big demonstrations, peaceful organized, I would say protesting, but we'd like to talk to people. And I'd actually go and see how the animals were treated and tell people, hey, listen, these elephants are pacing, tigers are pacing, elephants are doing stereotyping, they're head bobbing, and these animals shouldn't be there. And then kind of fast forward to 2015 with them, when the FWC proposed their first bear hunt, it was pretty much basically hunters just want to hunt some bears. Science says there was enough bears to hunt, but they still hadn't reached maximum carrying capacity. So the hunters wanted a trophy hunt when it boiled down to. And bears hadn't been hunted in Florida in 20 years due to the fact that they were almost wiped out of the state due to overhunting. So that's why the FWC kind of put the brakes on it. And then 2015, they had their first hunt. So we staged a demonstration against it. We knew that they would have, it was like an 18-city protest all at once, which is a pretty good demonstration for a bear hunt, against a bear hunt. But we knew they would have it. So I myself when the bears were killed, they had to be brought into a check station so they could get like tagged and like a tooth sample. And so I went to check station 17 and was documenting bears being killed as they were brought in for 2 days. And the first bear that I took a picture of was a lactating female. So obviously her cubs weren't with her. The hunt was supposed to last for a week. It was called off after 2 days because the bears were coming in so fast. It was very mismanaged. In one place, a BMU was what's called a bear management unit, and each place had a BMU quota. So like the Panhandle had a 40 BMU, so you could kill 40 bears. They killed 112 in less than 24 hours. So they had to close that one down. And so they kept saying how science-based hunting this was. Well, it wasn't. And one of the biggest reasons it got shut down was we had people at each check station calling a central number in. So we were counting bears because we didn't really trust the FWC to call it off. Chuck O'Neill on Sunday night when they'd reached almost 298 bears, he contacted the FWC and was like, hey, call the hunt off. You're going to go way over the quota. And they did. They called the hunt off. So it was a real debacle in 2015, from their perspective.
That's sad because I think also it's always been an interesting thing about how these hunting things happen. I know a lot of hunters who would disagree with how this was managed, right? Do you know hunters that would disagree with how this happened?
I do have friends that do hunt, and like I myself, if you're subsistence hunting, I have no problem with that. But trophy hunting, I think that's just something we need to put in the past. Nobody needs a bear rug. No one's surviving off bear meat. Yeah. I know it's bragging rights. Trophy hunters love to brag to each other. Look what I killed. You can see it online, Instagram, people showing off what they killed. And so, I have hunters that I know that they were completely disgusted. They deer hunt and they think bear hunting, let's leave the bears alone. They have enough problems with overdevelopment and everything else. So yeah, I just think it was, like I said, I think it was just pushed by, even the NRA was behind it. And I'm an avid gun owner and I shoot a lot. So I'm not against gun, but why is the NRA getting involved in a bear hunt? And then I'm not sure if you ever heard of the Safari Club International.
Yes, let's go.
They were behind it as well, which they're behind it now. Like if you sign up for an email with the FWC, you might get an email from the Safari Club International. They're like in bed with the FWC, which
Yes.
a professional trophy hunting outfit should be nowhere near wildlife conservation.
Yeah, Safari Club International, very well versed of them in Africa. Kenya, actually, one of the hotels was owned by them, and every room we're a conservation hotel, and every room had dead trophies. And then somebody else took it over and showcased just how bad this was because of the poaching in Kenya. Safari Club International, oh boy, don't even get me started. Really, they are one of these proponents of let's go out and kill an elephant to feed to a tribe in Africa and raise money and say we're giving money to conservation. Do you think the Africans in Africa don't know how to hunt and subsistence living?
Exactly.
So it's like this insane propaganda, and this mode of hunting is conservation, and some parts is subsistence like you're talking about, and we have an overpopulation of deer right now, so we have a little bit more Lyme's disease going around, but that's because we killed off the apex species. Right?
Exactly.
So is this, and when we start killing off bears, where are we in the web of life? When we kill off bears, we're going to end up with an overpopulation of more animals in a unbalanced way. So
it's like, you're right. You become the apex predator. The thing that some hunters don't realize is like, so when a wolf kills a deer, it's usually killing the weakest deer, the one that can't keep up. But the trophy hunters are killing the biggest, strongest buck. So they're actually doing such a disservice by taking the best genes out of the animals they're killing. So that they're in turn weakening the herd by taking the biggest, beautiful buck. They don't even consider that. It's almost opposite. When wolves will take the weakest, we want the biggest, the most points, the antlers and stuff like that. So it's actually kind of a flawed philosophy.
So what's going on right now? And is this something that is 100% going to happen? And if so, when? And I know you have protests happening next Saturday. So tell everybody about that. But first, what is happening? Is this a done deal that it's going to happen?
It's not a done deal yet. Last May in Ocala, this past May, they forwarded the proposed rules were agreed upon. So now the rules have to go for like next in the 13th and 14th in Havana, Florida, which is just north of Tallahassee. That's when they're making the final vote, which if they do vote, the hunt will happen this December, and all these other things get phased in. Like they want to use the biggest thing I think I'm going to step back a little bit is the difference with this hunt is it's a complete 180 on any kind of bear conservation. I mean, they want to remove check stations, make it an honor system, like an honor system. I'm sorry, there's no more check stations. Yeah, pure honor system. And they want to basically start to phase in the use of dogs. And I've done a 5-year investigation on deer dog hunting in Florida. I have a website called thedogwars.com. And it's the first phase showing people like, you have 8 trucks with 20 deer, like basically setting up kill zones. It's like this kind of militarized sport. And I don't think people understand how dog hunting can affect bears. Like when they release these dogs, when dogs run, everyone who's on the dog, your dogs will chase anything. They kind of, it's just the way, like if I run now, my dog will get up and run after me. So when a dog's running through the woods, what happens if they come across a nesting bird, a raccoon, a possum, and like say they come across a mother bear and their cubs are stashed away. I mean, the dogs are just kind of like indiscriminately, chasing these deer, and the human handlers aren't even nowhere near their deer. They could be miles away sitting in their truck with their GPS looking at where their dogs are going, setting up a kill zone to stand on their trucks to shoot at the deer when it runs by. And so if this hunt's voted on and it passes, dogs will now be trained to hunt bears. So it's
become a pack animal.
Up to 6 dogs can be used per hunter, but nothing in the rules saying 3 hunters couldn't meet together and have 18. Because with the dog hunting in Florida with the deer, there's no limit on dogs. You could have 100 dogs if you wanted to. I mean, it'd be real expensive and probably no one would do that. But I've seen upwards of 20 dogs, and they have the radio colors on them. And so they sit and see where their dogs go, let them go. And then it's like, to me, like seeing that, knowing the fate of
lazy hunting.
It's not. It's not even hunting. It's kind of more of a blood sport. Some guys don't do it like that, but the majority of guys I witness in different, from Ocala to Osceola to Blackwater, Florida, most guys do it that way. Some of the older school guys don't do it like that, but it's become very it's like kind of mechanized.
Wow. So it's getting, as we have more of this technology, it's getting harder for animals to even hide. So the entire actual sport of it is gone in a way.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that they'll get their dogs on a deer scent, and then they see where their dogs are running. So these guys know the roads. I mean, they live in these areas, so they'll drive the roads to get ahead of the deer, and they'll line there so it'll be like truck every 25 yards. The guys standing on their trucks like a firing squad, waiting they won't even go in the woods. Half of them, they just stand on their trucks on the road, and they wait till they see the deer coming, and they shoot. I've heard in the radios, because we monitor their radio comms, they've shot their friends' dogs before, and it becomes this kind of, it's just, like I said, to me, it's not a sport at this point, or even hunting. It's like this kind of a blood sport at this point.
Yeah, it sounds like this bear hunt, if it happens, will be like a bloodbath. What is happening in the kind of weapons that they can use? Because there's bow hunting, and bow hunting goes from like, here's your bow, to like compound bows and some crazy stuff. How was that?
Well, when I spoke at the Ocala meeting, I brought specifically up bow hunting because basically when you're trying to get a bear to kill, you're going for like double lung shots. It might be kind of graphic, but you're trying to get the bear to kind of bleed out quickly, hitting arteries. But a lot of times, if you don't get a clean lung shot, you get one lung, the bear's going to run off. And no one's chasing a wounded bear in the woods. That's like kind of common sense, because, so the bear, I watch these videos of these guys in New Jersey. They'll put piles of donuts out, baiting bears. And these bears are like literally just chilling out, eating donuts. And they're in tree stands with GoPros, with bows. And they're smiling as they zip this poor bear. And the bear screams. It didn't know what happened to it, because it didn't even see, it was ignoring the guys up there. It screamed and looks around in circles going, and then it runs. Like, it sounds like a person screaming. And I'm like, that's a kind of fate. And then, they can take hours or days to bleed out, like a painful death. And I brought it up at the meeting, and one of the FWC guys was asked about it by the commissioner. He says, he was like, what that guy Adam said, didn't say my name, but that guy said about bows, was that true? And all the guy says was, not my opinion. So his opinion, bow hunting is not cruel at all, in his opinion. It's like, well, let's shoot you with an arrow, and see how.
But that's the thing is, it's. I think you should go through school, and be certified, not just get a permit. You need to be permitted, and like, we have licenses to drive. And I know that people can also just, buy a boat and float around in the water in Florida too. Sorry. But that's a whole other topic. But going back to this with bows and how they're hunting. So any animal can go screaming off with these bows stuck in them. Yeah. Take this long death. One of the things we've covered over the years is traps and how that can really happen. I mean, you can go into a wildlife refuge. I love our wildlife refuge system, but at the same time, you could go walking with your dog, or a dog could be loose in a neighborhood that has a wildlife refuge and there's a trap. And there's some that are specific for bears. So do you know if they're allowing that kind of trapping?
No, I don't think for bears that's going to be part of this. It's just more like,
okay, good,
shotguns and the thing with, like, back to like weapons, like when you get hit, if you get hit with a shotgun, like a lot of times it'll stun the animal, and it'll be hit so hard with like a 12 gauge slug that it's a merciful death compared to a bow, and that's the thing, is the impact. If it's a good shot, it might knock or stun it, and it's dead the time it doesn't even wake up. But with an arrow, it's just, it becomes like just excruciatingly painful. And bears are such strong, high endurance animals, they can just run off and like, you'll never find them again. And so that's where they want to introduce baiting as well, because bears have such a great sense of smell. You're never going to sneak up on a bear unless the bear's familiar with you and you've been feeding it or something. But if you're hunting, that's why they have all the scent blockers and everything else. And they'll put a bunch of donuts out, hide, and the bear comes up. Or, I found it recently too, they have the sound machine they use for getting bears in. The sound machine will mimic a fawn in distress or a baby cub. So, because bears are known territorial, so you're luring a bear in with the sound of a crying cub to kill the bear. I mean, it's so twisted what's happening.
This is childish.
Yeah.
It's like, even as bird watchers, I remember you'd get like recordings of bird sounds, and you should use that to learn, so you hear the birds, because normally you hear a bird before you see a bird as a bird watcher. And now it's like they're really realizing, don't play the sound of the bird because it distresses the birds. You don't know if, exactly like you're saying, if it's a baby bird in distress or what those signals are, so oh wow, yeah, I'm getting
it's a baby bear in distress, a baby cub crying,
mean,
or a fawn, like a fawn being born. Like, bears will rarely take a deer, because most of the deer will outrun it. But if it can get a fawn, it might. But I mean, black bears in Florida are 80% vegetarian, so it's not like they're grizzlies or polar bears kind of thing. They're
okay, well, you bring us to the main question is here: why are they doing this?
Well, basically it's a hunting opportunity. They call bears a game species, and it's a hunting opportunity. They've kind of not even tried to bears haven't reached carrying capacity. I mean, there's not enough bears in the woods for if there were too many bears and they had to be a limited cull, I could somehow see that. But this isn't the case at all. It's somebody in the FWC is pushing this. Like the FWC is not made up of conservationists or biologists. It's made up of land developers and hunters. Like, Preston. Oh. Yeah. So one of the commissioners, Preston Ferrier, they had a protest at his car lot today. We have a picture, we have a poster of him. He killed a brown bear with a bow and arrow, and he's a FWC commissioner. So why are we having these people on the commission that are like have special interests with hunting? And that's kind of one of the problems we have with this too. The FWC biologists were very quiet at the meeting. Like, why aren't the scientists and the biologists in the FWC talking about this more? It seems like there's like a top-down order. Like this is coming from the commissioners who just wanted them to put together a hunt for them. And so basically they want a trophy hunt and they want to open up all kind of hunting for bears now.
Is this a political change, do you think, that has caused this? Or is this just, hey, we can do this, make money off of it? And because what I wonder about is the public land where they're allowed to hunt. Because that's the other thing. It's endangerment to humans when people go hunting. Because I'm also going to tell you, I go to public lands. That's what we do, traveling full time across the country. And have been in hunting zones and also had a guy come screaming by, stopping his truck going, "Did you see this dude? I'm out hunting and he stole my beer that I had in here." And I'm like, I don't think I want to drive around here. I don't think I want to go hiking with people being drunk with a gun, shooting an animal or hoping to even do that, right? So they're on public land somewhere. So who is running the public land? What public land are people allowed to shoot and bow hunt these, beautiful beings?
It'll be in the different BMUs, like there'll be probably one in the panhandle. So but there will be hunting on private land as well. But coming back to public lands, when I spent those 5 years documenting the deer dog hunting, I only saw an FWC officer. They're really not even out there patrolling like as much as you'd think. Out of 5 years, I got pulled over once to show my hunting license by an FWC officer. And I spent so many hours in the field work doing this. I never really saw them. And so that's one of the things, with this new hunt they're proposing, there'll be no check station. So one, you're removing any kind of accountability. And then two, like, I don't really see FWC officers going out there, and I haven't seen them being proactive with the deer dog huntings. It's kind of like, it's like, why, if they're going to do this, why wouldn't they could be like, oh, we're having heightened patrols in these areas. We're going to like make sure monitor these things more, but they're not doing any of that. It's almost like become a free for all at this point.
So is this so if this is land people and developers, right, with the land, so developers, let's just call it what it is. Are they using this as a real estate draw to get people that want to live in a hunting area, a trophy hunting area?
I can't really say that. I do know that like with, if people who own, I think it's over 5,000 acres, they can apply for special bear taking permits. So they can basically set up they can set up basically trophy hunting outfit on their property for bears. I don't know if you know this, but Florida is the capital of canned hunting in the United States. I think it's like Florida then Texas, where, they have these animals that are just raised to be shot. A lot of them are animals, they're not native animals, but it's just like you go out to this place and the animal's just sitting there and you take your rifle of your cup of coffee and you shoot it. Then you go home and brag to your buddies, hey, look, I bagged this.
We have a vice president that did that and got shot in the face when he went after quail. Yep. It's like, oh, I got quail and it like bounced back in his face. I'm going, are we supposed to feel sorry for you going after a bird that's caged in? Like, really?
Yeah, the canned hunting is just, it's not, but I'm sure.
So I don't understand the sport of what you're talking about. If these are sport hunters for trophies, they sound like babies to me in that they're not actually getting out there. You know what I mean? Like, I think this is pathetic. Sorry. I'm just saying, if they want to be like, look at me, I did this. Well, you're not, because you're using technology. You're being cruel, which means you're pathetic. Yeah,
it's not like, I'm sure everyone's seen the movie Last Mohicans, where at the beginning of the movie, they're chasing the deer down and they're respecting it. Like,
it's indigenous people that know how to hunt.
Okay? That's what I'm saying. But this is so far removed from even like, because, still hunters are the guys who will sit there all day waiting for a deer. And there's like underneath the hunters will stick together for the most part. Like publicly, a lot of hunters won't talk smack against each other. But behind the scenes, still hunters can't stand the dog hunters because they'll be sitting there all day waiting and a bunch of dogs run through and can disrupt everything.
Exactly what I'm saying. This is two different. Yeah, I have hunter friends that they're going to be really PO'd when they hear about this and maybe already know about it. Katie, I want to go to you because you've written an article and we'll put the link in the episode notes for everyone.
Thank you.
I know you're an animal lover, so there's the animal rights activists. I know will stand up. I know you have a protest coming on. It's August 9th, right?
August 9th. Yes, that's
August
why it's
9th?
about the shade. It's been pretty hot here.
Yeah, but you're all getting.
But I'm hoping to bring out some Pascal cards. And I agree with Adam about how horrible the first one was handled. The one point that Tom's Union, a local Florida Jacksonville newspaper, commented that during the hunt, the licensed hunters outnumbered the bear population. And they weren't counting the poachers. So that really goes to show how ridiculous it was.
They sold 3,778. I'm just off the top of my head because I made a graphic. I think they sold 3,778 permits. So to kill 304 bears. So it was like 11-to-1 ratio. I'm just kind of.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. Yeah.
Okay, wait, but where is that money going? That's what I want to. I want to know what are they doing with this money?
At that time, Rick Scott was governor. And like most governors, DeSantis again would be liking to make money for the state of Florida. I mean, that's what governors want to do is make money so it makes them look good. And
how much are they paying? I mean, how much are these bears now?
Correctly, the last time it was $100 for local and $300 for out of state. I'm not sure, Adam. You may know that more than I do.
I think that's right. I think that's right.
I think that's the figures I remember.
That's not even a lot of money.
No.
So this is just a
people.
This is
The other point that I'd like to make, everyone keeps referring to hunting as a sport. To me, the definition of sport is when two parties agree to compete. Nobody's asked the bear's opinion. Nobody asked the deer or any of the other animals' opinion. I mean, we right now have a problem going on here where animal cruelty is illegal in Clay County, but the county commissioners are forbidding us to feed feral cats in public parks. If you don't feed an animal, it starves. If it starves, that's cruel. Animals are just not treated fairly. I mean, we have too many people, but nobody declares we need to. Well, some of us might think we need to have a hunt on some people. But there's no legal hunting of people, and we're way overpopulated in Florida. And that was one of the main points that I wanted to make. Well, one point that I wanted to make was that, first off, the bears were here first. This was wild, natural country, and Florida still has a few places. I mean, you go to Babcock Ranch and you do a echo tour there, and you don't know what you're going to see. You could even see a panther because there is one there. It's part of technically the Everglades. But what's happening here, especially here in Clay County, subdivisions are just popping up. It's like wildfire. In Green Cove Springs, there's one subdivision which they're going to call it an agri-hood because it's going to be a mixed community and they're adding some agriculture. It's going to be over 8,000 homes. Clay County School Board has projected the number of new homes just in Clay County at 15,534. And we're a small county. We're not a big tourist destination or anything. So if we cut off all of this wild land, kill off all of our wildlife, I mean, we've almost killed the panthers, and we're going to do the same thing to the bears. That's the way we're going. And a lot of tourists come to visit Florida because they want to see the wild. They want to kayak. They want to go through the Everglades or Big Cypress. They want to see. I mean, my friend and I, we did a tour all the way down into Big Cypress, and we camped at Burns Lake, which is a 10-site campground, primitive campground. That was when we had the Mini Winnie, and we were hoping to see a panther, but we did not see any. I mean, there's only about 200 left, and we were fairly close to where the largest population is. We were the only people there. Even the host had left. It was getting going towards a little too hot for camping.
Well, wildlife is a huge draw for Florida,
right?
Whether it's the alligators, the birds. You look at the manatees, the bears, and that's the beauty when you think about where the bears live, especially in the northern panhandle, right? In the northern part of Florida, you've got the forest. So, yeah.
We have over 142.9 million visitors in 2004. That created 2 million jobs and put $131 billion in Florida's economy. That's a big part of those people did come here to see the bears and the wildlife. You know, all of the things that you can do when you're in the Everglades or in your Big Cypress or Babcock, when I did the Babcock, which was very recently, and they do I think it's about every hour and a half, something like that, there's a new tour bus. And these buses were full. These people wanted to see the wildlife. And the drivers can't guarantee you what you're going to see. we did not see a bear. We didn't see the panther. That's my life ambition. I want to see a panther in the wild.
Point, because you're talking about like conservation. I mean, you're talking about like tourism and money. There's this big myth that hunters like to hide behind called that they're, you've heard it, hunters, we're first in conservation. That's what SCI does that.
Yes.
That's a complete myth. Now, it used to be that way. There's a thing called the Pittman-Robertson Act. It was like a 1927, I might get the year wrong, excise tax on ammunition and firearms. That money, that's still there today. So since I shoot, go to the range, I have like tons of guns. Like a lot of my friends have guns, but they're not hunters. That money goes into a pool as well. So when it first started, the majority of money was into hunting, in conservation from the Pittman-Robertson Act. So hunters could claim that and from hunting licenses. But nowadays, that's just not true anymore. More money are spent on parks in Florida and like what you guys are talking about than any kind of hunting could put into our economy. And then even now that with the Pittman-Robertson, because they say more money comes from non-consumptive users, which is a non-hunter, than from hunters anymore, because it's your average person who has a firearm, who just for self-defense. A lot of people just shoot for self-defense, and guns are a big thing in America. So the money coming in from hunters, they don't make the majority anymore. So anytime I get in a discussion, it's like they have to stop lying, because it's an old narrative. It's just not true anymore.
How can killing something equal conservation? That makes no sense to me. That doesn't make sense.
We don't have an abundance of that. I mean, we have far more people in Florida than we have animals. I mean, at least bears. We may have,
have a lot of people.
If we don't count the roaches and mosquitoes. But
They protect the species they want to hunt is what it is. And once it gets to enough, they shave off the top, let it grow again. But it's not
real estate.
Not an altruistic thing by any means.
Oh,
No, but
to me, I wonder, especially trophy hunters. I can understand. I don't like hunting of any sort, but I can understand what Adam's saying with the subsistence hunters.
yes.
At least they're eating. I grew up in New Orleans, a Cajun culture. You eat what you hunt, and I understand that. I don't necessarily agree and wouldn't do it because there's a Winn-Dixie in the Publix everywhere. But it's a
Just give me cheese.
To me, the trophy hunting is a person who would really like to go out and be a serial killer.
Well,
It starts with and most serial killers, and I have written a couple of books that involve serial killers and researched it, begin with killing animals and torturing animals.
when someone abuses an animal, the next step is they're going to abuse a human. That is a normal thing, So I wanted to touch base with this, going back to the Safari Club International, because they have used hunting and trophy hunting as the conservation model. And it doesn't make sense to me that, hey, let's kill something in the name of conservation. It's like saying a wildlife refuge, which I document, and I love wildlife refuges. However, majority of wildlife refuges, the main thing that they do on there, just like our BLM land, is and our forests, I'm going to so get in trouble, but this is the truth. Our public lands are used for many different things other than protecting the nature and the historical aspects. So like our National Park Service, the National Park Service is so important. It's the highest level of protection that we have. Now that's diminishing as we talk in protecting our actual public, like our history, protecting places like Yosemite, protecting historic markers, all of that. You go to, it used to be called Fish and Game, which is what they should call it. When they moved being fish and wildlife, it's so weird because your majority of our wildlife refuges.
Well, also too, like
yes.
I drone a lot. So like I'm a commercial.
Okay.
So I use drones for all sorts of things. And I've been to Ocala National Forest. A lot of it looks like a wasteland from the logging. They clear cut and just plant pine tree.
Clear cut.
Not getting and so it literally, it looks like a complete desert wasteland in certain areas.
And that's what people don't know, what they don't understand about public lands. Well, some, I shouldn't say all at all, but our public lands are absolutely getting trashed. And when our National Park Service is getting attacked, we have no chance for these other ones. Bureau of Land Management is a free-for-all, and they don't have the staff. So as we defund the staff, it's just a free-for-all. So this bear hunt now is scary to me.
Well, to me, it's the same thing. You see the not getting political climate, but it's like, we took years to do all this conservation efforts, Democrat and Republicans. It didn't happen overnight, decades. And now it's being unraveled in a few years by power-hungry people. It's unbelievable, like what they're taking us back.
I want to remind everyone that it was Richard Nixon who signed in the EPA It was Richard Nixon who signed in the Velma Act to protect wild horses in 1974, that we would protect these wild species. And yet our Bureau of Land Management actually goes out there and gets them from helicopters. One guy used to not drive them, but it was the pilot of the helicopters, and got caught hunting the wild horses from the helicopter. And guess what? He's still doing it. And he just got a little, here's a little fine. Yeah. And off you go. So the mismanagement is there. And there are our park rangers, our forest rangers, and are so many people, the rangers in, the wildlife refuges, the forests and things like that. 99% of them really care, but there's a money thing going on, and our land, our public land, is being used for cattle. I've gone into this war for years about our, cattle used to be like just around $2 to $3, like 10 years ago, $2 to $3 to let your cattle graze on forest land, which puts the water into jeopardy for other species. And this is part of it. So it's all connected. So going back to the bears, doing a hunt when their land, their habitat is shrinking, as Katie was saying, Adam, we're just boxing them in right now, isn't it? With this,
they have nowhere to go. In Florida, we don't have one bear population. I think we have around 7 fractured subpopulations, because with all the roadway systems being built, they didn't put any kind of wildlife corridors. So the bears don't really have any way to get back and forth to each other. So these populations are kind of stuck. And when you're hunting small populations, you can worry about genetic isolation, get too much inbreeding. So yeah, the bears is putting more pressure on them.
So they're not going to be viable populations anymore.
Yeah, well, especially with more people moving here, road construction, vehicle mortality. It's like there's this, protest. Yeah, just stay away protest. And they go to beardefenders.org and they can find out which city they're closest to, because they're all over the state. So yeah, that's and that just raises awareness, gets people talking, get news coverage out there, and then I've been drop shipping flyers to people all over the state, thousands of them. These flyers I made to hand out with like petition QR codes, and then I'll be attending the meeting on the 13th and 14th.
And so that's the
yeah.
Can people from out of state or out of country contact DeSantis and say, we're not coming to Florida if you do this. We're not going to come invest our tourism money if you do this.
We've been in a lot of stuff like that over the past few months, because we have on Facebook, we have our Bear Defender page. I think it's the largest anti-bear hunting Facebook page. It's like 84,000 followers, and it's very avid based.
Wow, right on.
And so we've been doing all sorts of calls to action like that. So, but when it's coming from the top down, like for me with DeSantis, I don't think he's going to care if 10 billion people email him not to do it. If he wants to do it, he'll do it. It's like, wildlife is supposed to be a trust for the public. And like the last hunt, it's unscientific, it's undemocratic, and it's immoral. It's like, 80% of Floridians are against this. And so I don't know why they won't listen to it. But the hunters somehow they just want to have the hunt at this point.
So I have a feeling that this has to do with ownership of land and what's going on when you're saying that they are able to, if they get X amount of land for X amount of dollars, you can shoot bears on your property. So it kind of makes me feel that's part of it.
Yeah, the private property, bear hunting, these guys already hunt on the properties anyway, whether they have the canned hunting or just like deer hunting. A lot of guys will have to let people hunt on their, but it does allow these large landowners to they can start having their own bear hunts now on their property, and they can bait bears on their property. Yeah. So it opens up such a, this Pandora's box is basically everything. These poor bears aren't going to survive very long after this, or they'll be just harder to less genetic diversity, smaller populations. And then when does that population, become under the Endangered Species Act, if that doesn't get completely gutted, which,
Well, but animals deserve to be wild.
So there's a lot of that whole situation. There's a lot of he was by a wildlife corridor, bears been spotted, lots of trash in the area. Like what she's saying could have happened, but they're chalking up the first, but keep in mind that'd be the first, if they're correct, it'd be the first person ever killed in Florida by a bear. That just goes to show you how non-dangerous they are.
But this is where I go to Asheville, right? And places like Three Rivers outside Sequoia National Park, where they understand bears, and they go, when you take your stuff out of your car, there's just ways to coexist. And, Asheville, I've taken trash out, and had mama and the babies right there and go, holy cow, let me get back inside, So you do, and it was those are them right there. But there's a way to coexist, and I think Asheville, North Carolina, they're not perfect at it, but they're doing really well. And for visitors, they're like, "Wow, this is amazing!" You could stay at a bed and breakfast and see a bear in the garden. Like literally, I've seen it with my own eyes, and you learn. And the reality is, when animals get hurt, it's from people getting and feeding them and teasing them and doing something they shouldn't do. It happens in our national parks all the time. People do it to moose. They do it to bison. I mean, a buffalo, or is it bison or buffalo? I'm going to get in trouble from someone on that. But that's the reality. It's how are we handling things? How are we treating the animals in these shrinking spaces that we have very minimal left? People think America's great and huge. Yes, we have a growing population. Yes, we need to have places to live, but can we actually have a heart and soul and balance it out and coexist? So I think, beardefenders.org, everyone go there. The meeting is August 3rd.
13th, 14th.
13th, 14th.
The website has, like, the front page website has all the bullet points, what to do, how you to make it easy as possible. But, back to your point, like talking about there is a personal responsibility, when someone moves in these neighborhoods, but some people just don't want to do it. They don't want to be inconvenienced. Is that there's this part of it's a self-centeredness about the humans. Like, I don't want to do it. I live here. I can keep my trash out. But the FWC even had, I think, a few $100,000 for bear-proof trash cans. They never implemented it. The money just sat there. Why isn't the FWC going out and going to these neighborhoods and enforcing making sure if you live near bear habitat, you should have bear-proof trash cans? It's common sense,
Yeah, Asheville has them. Asheville people, you pay a little bit more because you're getting an extra thing on it to keep them closed, like a little thing. And you know what? It works. I mean, they do it in Colorado. They do it all over the country because there's a lot of different places that have bears, and they'd rather have their bears and have their web of life. Because again, we have a rise of Lyme disease in this country, and it's from us killing the predators of the deer. And then we go, let's go kill all the deer. Right? Yeah. So I'm just saying, we've got to look at the web of life and understand it was perfectly balanced until we decide to screw with it. So maybe we should just stand up for the bears now.
It's an interesting point. So bears have what's called delayed implantation. So a female bear gets pregnant, the egg sits up on the uterine wall. And so she might not have the cubs right away. So say there's a really scarcity of food, she might not have any cubs. Abundant food, she might have 5 cubs, 4 cubs. So the biology in the bear is already baked into the bear through, how many hundreds of thousands of years or millions of bear genetics. So that's what we kind of tell hunters, they can manage their own populations. It's not like ungulates, deers, moose, caribou. Bears have a whole different way of managing their own populations. So
well, nature does, but we keep messing with it.
Go figure,
Yeah, go figure. Well, thank you both so much. Everyone, again, beardefenders.org. Also go to americanroads.net. For Katie, she's got an article up there, and a link to that is also in the episode notes. I got to give a big shout out to Katie because she doesn't stop beating her drum and protesting on what she believes in. I remember this a year and a half ago. We were doing a show just on the beauty of Florida. And then next thing you know, she's like, it's all beautiful. And then guess what? Well, we're going to lose it if we don't stand up for our bears. So I appreciate that. And I think it's important that we stand up for, what we believe in the caring spirit, and we should. And the more we exercise our right to speak forth and stand up for those rights, the more that we need to, or we'll lose them. So we don't want to lose those rights. So let's use this as an action to keep speaking forth. So thank you, Adam, for all that you do. So everyone, beardefenders.org, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for joining us here on Big Blend Radio's Nature Connection show. Keep up with us at bigblendradio.com.